I'm motoring at 5.5 knots through the water, and we're going 9.5 knots over ground. As you can see, there are a lot of ships in New York Harbor. All those green triangles are AIS targets, and most of them are underway. It's like driving a car. You got to keep your eyes on the road all the time. We are going around the battery here and up the East River. Why don't I show you the satellite chart for fun? Overlay sat photo. I find this sat photo really useful actually. You can really get an idea of what it looks like where you're going. AIS target zooming around the battery there. This guy coming up on my starboard. And of course you got to remember you don't always have AIS. Not all boats transmit AIS. There's a Staten Island ferry docking at the Staten Island Ferry Terminal off the battery where we were when we went over to Staten Island to have dinner with George and Susan. Unfortunately, there wasn't time for them to visit us on Paragon, so there's definitely a rain check thing there in some other location on Earth. So it'll take them a little while to board all those people. We'll skedaddle past them before they pull out. We got another ferry. That's a guy who saw an AIS earlier. He's coming around with his trajectory. I am going to keep him on my starboard side. Staten Island Ferry Terminal.
Helicopter there. Another helicopter coming in. This is the Brooklyn Bridge?
River.
This is the Brooklyn Bridge?
Yes, yes. Welcome to the East River. This is the Brooklyn Bridge.
Got all these iconic buildings that you really only see in the movies. And then come here and get to see it all in person. It's just really cool. You can walk on the bridge. We had talked about doing that, but we never quite got around to it. There's just never enough time to do the cool stuff that you want to do. Looks like they're doing all sorts of construction on that side. I'm assuming probably because of Hurricane Sandy. It's like a church. So here is the Manhattan Bridge. I think I like the Brooklyn Bridge more. Someone's making coffee.
Oh, I can smell it.
It's beans. Those are the smell of beans roasting.
Really?
There's a coffee bean roaster here.
Strong, man. Wow. Yeah, that's coffee, huh? Smells good. Next bridge is the Williamsburg Bridge. Looks like 130 feet.
Some last looks at Manhattan. sugar plant right there. The sugar factory has seen some better days. I wonder if it's still open. It's funny, these massive ferries, and they get up on a plane and they go so fast. So you can see current. That buoy, we're going with it.
That's the United Nations building. Keep this boat well to your port side. I love looking at Manhattan from the water. It's interesting because I'm so used to seeing the west side in the Hudson River, and it looks very different on the east side. The east side has all of these bridges, and the current is much stronger on the east side. It's otherwise known as Hell's Gate. Over here on our starboard, this is Roosevelt Island. I've never been there. I wonder what it's like.
It's a playground. It looks like a school. Playground for a school right above 2 layers of highway. Huh.
So right here, according to the chart, this is where Hell's Gate is. It curves to the right. I'm motoring at 5.5 knots through the water, and we're going 9.5 knots over ground. We've got a 4-knot current going with us. According to the tide table or Eldridge chart, I didn't think it was going to go up that high. But, you know, looking at the actuality, we're in 4 knots of current.
The current here is just pulling the boat from side to side a little bit.
Got to give it some more throttle just to maintain steerage through this area. We've got all of this interesting looking turbulence in the water.
It looks like that's going to be our last glimpse of Manhattan.
Wow, that's a big bridge. I actually hit a bridge bad on my Westsail 32 Valiant. It was actually right here. It was on the other side of Roosevelt Island, where there's a lift bridge that you have to instruct to open up with the radio, and I did not. This was back in 1997, just after I had bought Valiant, and when I was new to sailing in the ocean, new to being anywhere else but in the protected Charles River in a little dinghy sailboat. I came up to the bridge, and at the last second I thought, gee, you know, that looks kind of low, am I going to hit it? And then I thought to myself, well, hey, I'll turn the boat 90 degrees to port, and I'll just motor right up alongside the bridge, and if I'm going to hit it, then I'll just tap it, and then I'll know, and then I'll turn away and motor back down where I came from. That was my strategy. I was in this current, you know, 3-4 knot current, and as soon as I turned my boat 90 degrees to port, that current grabbed her full keel and just dragged her sideways, and we hit the bridge. The current just dragged me to the other side, and I snapped my upper shroud on the starboard side. It broke apart right above the turnbuckle, and I was so afraid that the rig would come down. I went to City Island and I grabbed a mooring ball there. Because back then I didn't even know how to anchor. And rowed ashore and found another Westsail 32 on the hard in the boatyard with a couple of guys that were working on the boat, just getting ready to go cruising. And I said, "Hey, ahoy, fellow Westsail 32," and told them my story. Thank God they were there, because I didn't know what to do. And it was also July 3rd, day before Independence Day. We hopped in their truck and we went to the hardware store and we got these clamps, and then they came back out to my boat and they taught me how to tie a thimble loop onto the end of the broken shroud. Then we used blocks and line to tighten that down. And it was a worthy enough jury rig repair so that I could sail on to Boston. It's probably the biggest mistake I've ever made, just not knowing the bridge height and assuming that I would fit under it. Never again.
The best thing you could have done to have turned sideways, though.
Yeah, if I hadn't turned sideways,
absolutely.
Absolutely. These are the kinds of things you learn through experience.
Well, let's hope that everyone does not hit a bridge to learn to check out all the bridges.
It is breezy and the current is strong, but we are doing good.
I think that's it. There's an old abandoned hospital on one of these islands off of New York. This guy explored it and took pictures the inside.
Really?
A lot of the machinery is still there, books, files, all sorts of
I
stuff.
wonder how he got ashore.
A boat.
It's like deserted?
Yeah.
There's nobody there.
No.
All the windows are broken out.
Oh man, I totally want to go there.